Hey, what's up, guys? If you haven't subscribed yet to my channel, please make sure you do that. And today, I will be doing a WrestleMania 32 review. Now, before anyone asks, let me just say that I did not look at WrestleMania last night on pay-per-view because my parents, they do not watch wrestling, so it was no way they were going to pay for it. And I don't have the WWE network because my account is under my dad's, and he wasn't gonna pay for it for me to have that on my PlayStation, so I just wasn't able to see it that way. But however, when the show went off, I did go and look at the highlights on YouTube after it was already done. So based on what I've seen, let me just say that WrestleMania 32, I'm gonna be quite honest, it wasn't as bad as a lot of people thought it would be. Now, as far as the decision making, that's kind of a little bit another story. Some of the decisions they made with the winners, I didn't really agree with. But this was one of those WrestleManias where really there was only one match on the card that wasn't predictable. The rest of the matches on the card, you kind of already had a field of who was going to win the match. And so that's what kind of made this WrestleMania a little bit, interesting, but a little bit kind of where you already knew things, because there were some matches on the card where you kind of already knew who they were going to have to win. And then there was that one unpredictable match that I'm sure everyone knows what I'm talking about. So let's get started. I'm not going to go in order with these matches, but the first match I have to put in order because this was the first match of the night. This was the most unpredictable thing of the whole night. So you start off with the ladder match for the Intercontinental Championship. Zack Ryder versus Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens versus Dolph Ziggler versus The Miz versus Stardust versus, let's see who else was in there. Oh man, there's a lot of people in this match. Sin Cara, and is that it? I think that's just about everybody. So you had this ladder match for Intercontinental title. This was a really good match. I gotta say, this was a really good opener. It was funny because on the last video I made a couple of days ago, I said that I hope that the opener would be the ladder match, like how it was at WrestleMania 31. And this was a really good opener. I gotta say, this was a pretty good opener. And I think what made it even more good is that they had Zack Ryder win because no one expected this. I even now said that the guy who I was going for to win this thing was Zack Ryder before WrestleMania even took place. I said I was going for Zack Ryder. I wanted Zack Ryder to win, but I didn't know how they were going to book it. And a lot of people say that the only reason some people say that, the only reason he won was because to replace Neville. And I don't know how true that is, but I'm just glad that he finally got his moment. He's been a jobber ever since late 2012. And, they've had him losing all these big matches, but it was just something you could sort of see that changed that momentum, that made it where you could actually, we're now, a lot where you can actually believe. And the thing is that the fact that they waited so long to give Zack Ryder his moment, to give Zack Ryder his opportunity, makes a lot of people think, well, it would have been more significant. It would have meant more had they been trying to boost up his career much earlier instead of waiting after all this time to get him away from being a jobber. Because he's been a jobber for so long that, people stayed on his feet, but some people just gave up. They was like, they're never going to push this man. And I'm just so proud of the fact that he won. This was really the only unpredictable thing of the night, because I don't think anyone ever expected that they were going to have Zack Ryder win an IC title. It was a really good match. Dolph Ziggler, he played a big role in this match with his super kicks to everybody. Sami Zayn played a good role, really good high flyer. I said the high flyers were going to have a huge impact on this thing. Zack Ryder did a high flying move. You had Sin Cara diving up to everybody. A lot of people was really doing really good in this match. In fact, Sami Zayn at one point was literally leading this match, is how good he was doing. It was really good. I like how Stardust played tribute to his father, the late great Cody Rhodes, Dusty Rhodes. I'm sorry, Dusty Rhodes. And with the ladders swinging it and hitting everybody, it was just a really good opener. And I'm so glad that Zack Ryder got his opportunity. I'm so glad that they finally given this man something he deserved a long time ago that they refused to give. So that was the first match at night. So then, like I said, now I'm not going to go in order. So then you got, the Jericho and AJ Styles match. Now let me just say that when I looked at this match, it kind of just proves that when you continuously keep having the same two people rival with each other, there's only for so much you can really do. And I'm going to be quite honest. I think their best match out of their whole series was probably the one on Raw. And the second one would be the one on SmackDown. Because the problem I've seen in this match, and this was the same issue I seen at Fastlane, it was way too many botches. You know, at Fastlane, when I saw them go against each other, it was a good match, but it was way too many botches. It was too many moves that you could obviously see that they were missing. And this match was really slow paced. It was even more slower paced than their match at Fastlane. And I just gotta say that I was ultimately surprised when I seen Chris Jericho win, because, you know, this is a man who is used to putting young talent over. And I just don't understand. You know, I understand he's new and he just came from TNA and everything, but I just didn't understand why, you know, why they couldn't allow him to put AJ Styles over. I mean, I saw an interview with Chris Jericho, and he literally sat there and said that at this point in his career, he doesn't really care about winning or losing. He's accomplished everything he can accomplish. He's a part-time wrestler now because he's always doing stuff with the Fozzies. So he doesn't have time to be wrestling full-time like he used to. And I just don't understand why, you know, they couldn't just have him put AJ Styles over. I'm not saying that I'm upset, you know, that Chris Jericho won, but I was ultimately shocked that they had Chris Jericho win, because I would have expected something different. I mean, this was AJ Styles' first WrestleMania. I didn't think they were going to have him lose to Chris Jericho, especially when this is not benefiting AJ Styles at all, the fact that he lost to Chris Jericho. You know, if they had AJ Styles had Chris Jericho put AJ Styles over, it would have been more significant. It would actually meant something. And this is one of the issues that some people sort of had was, you know, they wanted to even the odds of the series. But, you know, after a while, you kind of get tired of seeing the same two people face each other, especially when they can't build upper and upper and upper with their matches. Two guys that I could say that almost every match I seen them go against, it was better than the other one, was Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose. They had a really good rivalry. Every match they had, it would get higher and higher than the other one they had. But this has got to stop. I'm not saying that, you know, that it's a bad start for AJ Styles. But they just need to push AJ Styles to another level. They need to get him away from this whole thing with Chris Jericho and start actually having him become a bigger superstar and rise to the top. Because, I mean, after seeing that, I'm just like, you know, this has got to stop. It was one thing when they first started this thing, but I seen how it was at Fastlane, too many botches. I just seen how it was at WrestleMania, and this has got to stop. They got to put AJ Styles to another level now, get him rivaling with someone else, try to actually get him to start winning mid-card championships now. You know, he's got to get away from this, because this is not doing anything for him at all. And like I said, a lot of people probably would have thought it was even more, would have appreciated more if they had AJ Styles win. But, you know, Chris Jericho won, and the code breaker is pretty decent. But, you know, at the same time, it is what it is. So then you got that match. Then you got the New Day versus the League of Nations. Well, let me just say, I was honestly rooting for the New Day on this one, but I did, and this is one of those matches that a lot of people already knew this was going to happen. I did sort of know that the League of Nations was going to win. Here's how I knew. Because a lot of people were saying this, and I saw it. Every Raw that they had, the New Day was always beating the League of Nations in a singles match. And one thing I've always hated about that is when they get you so hype around WrestleMania season, when they start having people win all the time and the crowd's all hyped, then at WrestleMania the person loses. I hate that. I hate it. Because it kind of defeats the purpose. It even defeated the purpose even more that Austin and Shawn Michaels and Mick Foley came out there. And it was one thing when they attacked League of Nations, but why did they have to attack the New Day as well? I mean, that made no sense to me. I mean, the fact that I understand why they came, but I mean, it's just when that ended and, League of Nations won everything, I just don't understand that. It was a really short match. I wish it could have been much longer. And they basically beat the heck of Xavier Woods most of the match. But I really had wished that the New Day had retained the tag team titles because they were really getting over with the crowd. And, the crowd was really loving them. And I just really wanted them to get even more better. And, it's just sad. But the League of Nations won. And, like I said, it was a pretty good match. I'm not gonna say it was actually pretty good. It was not that long. I felt like it needed more time, but the strategy, it was gonna eventually come to the New Day. You could always see it that they were always outnumbered from the get-go. They was always outnumbered by the League of Nations because it was always 4 of them and 3 of the New Day. So that's how that is. The League of Nations beat the New Day, and the only thing I didn't like was after the match was over, it was one thing when they attacked the League of Nations, but why did they have to attack the New Day? That just didn't make any sense to me. I mean, I knew it would happen, but it just... So that's how that is. League of Nations defeats the New Day. A lot of people already expected this because New Day was winning too much on Raw, and that's just how that is. So then you got that match. Then you got the Brock Lesnar versus Dean Ambrose street fight. Well, let me just say that this match was decent, but I gotta say, honestly, going back to what I said about Chris Jericho and AJ Styles, what is this really doing for these superstars to go at WrestleMania and face someone who's an old timer, who's like a part timer, and lose to him? What is it really doing to them? I mean, Brock Lesnar, basically they try to have him dominate the whole match, and I'm so glad that Dean Ambrose used certain weapons to try to, even the odds, because I just get sick and tired of when they put Brock Lesnar in these matches and he just, dominates the whole match half the time. I'm not saying that, it shouldn't happen, but it's just that, like, after a while, does anyone get tired of that? I mean, the Suplex City is all good and everything, but oh my goodness, like, I'm so glad that he started throwing stuff at Brock Lesnar, everything he could. But like I said, this isn't doing anything to Dean Ambrose that they had him lose to Brock Lesnar. It's just not. It would have made more sense had Dean Ambrose won. But I think a lot of people probably already expected this. This is why it wasn't really surprising to them that Brock Lesnar defeated Dean Ambrose. I mean, the street fight was okay. It wasn't one of the best street fights I've seen. And one of the reasons is because of what I just said, because Brock Lesnar was basically taking over a lot of the match. Now, what Dean Ambrose was doing was using tricks to sort of get back at him, and it was helping him in a way. But, I would have wanted Dean Ambrose to win more than Lesnar, because Dean Ambrose, the young star, Lesnar is the part-timer. And I mean, I don't understand what was this thing at WrestleMania this year where they were just going to let all the old guys win. I just didn't understand that, because it's not doing anything for their careers, especially Lesnar. I mean, he's at the point in his career where he just comes when he wants, and they just pay him to do all this stuff. And like I said, it was okay match. It was, not one of the best matches, but I am glad Dean Ambrose was able to pull some moves on him, because I would have hated it if Brock Lesnar just dominated literally the whole match and Dean Ambrose did nothing. That would have sucked. But it's unfortunate they didn't do that. So that's how that match turned out. Brock Lesnar defeats Dean Ambrose at WrestleMania 32. Wow, wow, wow. 'Wow. Wow. 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 Now, I will say, the way how they have it, it would kind of be strange. I'm gonna get about that a little bit later. But anyway, so you got that. Then you got Charlotte versus Sasha Banks versus Becky Lynch for the Divas Championship in a triple threat match. And whoever won would get the new WWE Women's Championship. Well, let me just say this was an excellent match. Was done perfect. This was a really good match. Now, the ending, what more can you really expect, is always the same thing. Ric Flair getting involved. And I think if he would stop doing that, it would make more sense what they're doing now. Me personally, in this match, I was rooting for Sasha Banks. I wanted Sasha Banks to win. That was my that's who I wanted to win before WrestleMania even came. But you know, this was a really good match between these divas, and you can start to really see the landscape of the divas division changing. This was a really good match. Really good. I like every move these divas use. Is really good. Sasha Banks got her time. Becky Lynch got her time. Of course, Charlotte got her time because she was the one that won this match. It was a really good match that really worked. And in the end, you know, Charlotte retains her title, even though I think it would have been a lot better if the title had changed hands, but it just didn't. And you know, I wasn't really upset about that, you know. I mean, I saw the highlights of it. It was pretty decent. The ending, like I said, is Ric Flair is just going to be Ric Flair. He's always going to help his daughter out. And I do get tired of seeing him so much now because, I mean, she eventually needs to do something on her own. But, you know, even though I wanted Sasha Banks to win, she didn't. And that's how that is. Charlotte wins, retains her Divas Championship. Oh, man. Okay. So you got that match. Then, all right. How many matches do we have? Man, let me see. You got all those matches. I think, I'm trying to remember, is there any more other than the main event that I missed? Oh, okay, that's what I'm talking about. Then you got Shane McMahon versus The Undertaker. Hell in a Cell. And let me just say, a lot of people wanted Shane McMahon to win. Well, I kind of already had an idea that they were not going to have Undertaker lose in Texas. Wherever I kind of had the idea they weren't going to have him lose there. But at the same token, let me just say that after looking at that match, this match, even though The Undertaker won, definitely needs to be Undertaker's last match. Period. Because, you know, Shane McMahon, for him to be a non-active wrestler, for him to